as we went down this table, the more boxes you ended up having to check off, it was a very high likelihood that you would end up becoming a gang member. There was a time when I was in a training put on by a gang psychologist, and we hear a lot of times about whether people are, products of their environment, or whether, so it's that balance between being a product of your environment or personal responsibility, that argument you get. And interestingly enough, in this seminar, so this psychologist who pretty much exclusively deals with issues regarding gangs was teaching us as defense attorneys just certain things to look out for and things that can be useful when we're representing people who are alleged to be gang members or were ex-gang members or the like, when that issue comes up. And he posted this table. It was like a chart. And the more boxes you checked off as you went down, there was, just this high percentage. There was this huge high percentage that you would end up becoming a gang member yourself. And so the boxes were like, whether you're a boy versus girl, because there's just a lot more male gang members than there are females. Do you have one parent in the household? Do you have two parents in the household, or do you have no parents in the household? So like, are you being raised by a grandmother or a grandfather? Because, let's just be honest. If you're a little kid running around, getting into trouble, when grandma is 60, 70 years old and just doesn't have the energy, is just so disconnected to be able to be on top of properly disciplining. And I'm not saying that that's not all across the board, but it's just different. So do you have parents in the household or not? What is the household income, right? Because a lot of times what the household income is going to dictate where the person ends up living. Is the kid participating in any extracurricular activities? Again, if you have football practice every afternoon, or if you have band practice every afternoon, or you got to practice your instrument, or you're running drills, or you're out shooting basketballs every afternoon, or what have you, the more you're occupied with those type of things, the more you're distracted from what's going on in your hood. And so that's where these extracurricular activities become important. And so if there are no extracurricular activities, is there a YMCA there? Is there a Boys and Girls Club there? And shout out to the Oceanside Boys and Girls Club. That's where I came up at. That kept me off the streets where I was coming up at. That kept me safe and away from the gang activity that was going on where I was growing up. And so again, as we went down this table, the more boxes you ended up having to check off, it was a very high likelihood that you would end up becoming a gang member. So then we end up touching on the issue and the question of, is it really an issue of personal responsibility, or is it the product of the environment? And yes, we all have our own, we have our own will, we have our own volition. But the interesting thing is, listen, you don't know what you don't know. So you only know what's going on around you unless somebody puts you up on game, unless somebody teaches you something different. And so this is why, listen, and a lot of times it's interesting, when we look at other areas, more affluent areas, and say, okay, well, why don't we have all this violence and gang activity and drugs and all this kind of stuff? Well, they're insulated from it. Wherever you have poverty and lack of resources, lack of job opportunities, lack of, just basic needs, then you're going to have these type of environments.